It has been an intense 24 hours in Montreal, guys. Oh, wow. The news and rumors and speculation coming out of the city in regards to their historic franchise, the Montreal Canadiens, and the outlook for the franchise moving forward in terms of who will be running the show. It has been intense. This is exciting. It looks like we may be entering a new era of the Montreal Canadiens, exiting potentially the Marc Bergevin tenure within days, maybe within hours. A lot of people, including myself, spending time refreshing Twitter, refreshing Reddit to wait for that official announcement from the Montreal Canadiens. But in the meantime, this all kicked off last night when we heard that Scott Mellanby, assistant Montreal Canadiens general manager, Marc Bergevin's right-hand man, resigned from his position with the Canadiens. And word has it is that he was Marc Bergevin's recommendation to Jeff Molson for who should take over as general manager when he eventually makes his departure. And there's talk that maybe Mellanby was promised the job as general manager. But it's looking like Jeff Molson has decided to go in a different direction. Now think back to shortly after Jeff Molson purchased the Montreal Canadiens from George Gillette, Bob Gainey resigns, and his recommendation was for Pierre Gauthier, his assistant GM, to take over. And we all know how that turned out. Maybe this is Jeff Molson realizing that that's not the best direction to go. And I'm relieved that it's looking like we are going to get a fresh set of executives to run this Montreal Canadiens team. And from the people that we're hearing who it could be, it is exciting. Montreal has a permission to speak to Jeff Gorton, formerly the general manager of the New York Rangers, as well as formerly the interim general manager of the Boston Bruins. He has a fantastic track record. He's being looked at, according to numerous sources, Darren Dreger, Friedman, as the potential president of hockey operations for the Montreal Canadiens. And then under him, it's speculated through Chris Johnson that Montreal is seeking a French-speaking general manager. That could be anyone. That could be Martin Madden Jr., assistant general manager for the Ducks. That could be Matthew Darce, assistant general manager for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Could be Patrick Waugh, who's currently general manager of the Quebec Remparts in the QMJHL. Lots of options. We'll get into all that. But what I will say is whoever is taking over this Montreal Canadiens team will be in a very favorable position. I understand the Habs are having an absolutely horrendous year this year. I think, they're 6-15-2, something around there. Awful. Of course, we do pick up a win against the Pittsburgh Penguins last night, which was great to see. First win in a good while, especially after that ugly loss, too, as well, against the Buffalo Sabres. And it's been exciting seeing some of these young kids actually put in some effort and getting some opportunities here and there. And we'll get into that, too. But my focus right now is this front office. And whoever takes over, thanks to Marc Bergevin, will be in a very favorable position. Like I said, tough season, but you got to think, Nick Suzuki, that's a core piece. He's looking very strong as a young player. Then you have Cole Caulfield as well, slowly getting comfortable in the NHL. These are very young players. Alex Romanov. So there's 3 potential core pieces. And that's just the young guys. Then you got some veterans and some young veterans on the team. Of course, Carey Price, he still holds value. Joel Edmondson is on a great contract. Christian Dvorak, I know he's struggled off and on. But just think about this. Thanks to the trade Marc Bergevin made with the Arizona Coyotes, the trade protection that those firsts have, and the way this Canadian season is going now, it's looking like we are going to have a lotto pick. So the new general manager and president will have access to an NHL lotto pick that hopefully ends up being top 3, thanks to that trade protection. And the pick we're giving up for Christian Dvorak ends up being Carolina's. That's looking like it's going to be late first round. So for a late first round pick, we get a seasoned 20 to 25 goal scoring center who's strong in the faceoff dot, and I think will still have a really strong impact in Montreal for years to come. And he's on a very fair contract. And of course, you got Jonathan Drouin as well, a couple years left for him, but he's showing he can play in this league. And I'll be interested to see what the decision is on him moving forward. And of course, Jeff Petrie, again, tough year, but he's on a good contract. If he gets his game back, whether we keep him or we end up trading him, he holds value. There's numerous pieces like that on the Montreal Canadiens, numerous. And that's not even getting into the prospects that are soon going to be making the jump, as well as the plethora of picks we have going into the draft next year. I mean, this franchise is loaded with assets of in every area. Every area. You got the veterans, you got the young veterans, you got the very young players that have recently graduated, the picks, the prospects. So whoever takes this team over is looking good, thanks to Marc Bergevin. So as much as I have been a Marc Bergevin supporter, I do not regret the years under Marc Bergevin whatsoever. I mean, we've seen an Eastern Conference final, we've seen a Stanley Cup final. He has made significant moves that will, have strong impacts on this team for years to come. I still believe Shea Weber's impact will be felt. Of course, all the players I just mentioned were brought in by Bergevin. The picks and prospects were gathered the last few years, and I have a lot of respect for what he's done for this team, making it the best Canadian team in the NHL the last 10 to 15 years. Hard to complain. I know we don't have a cup, but we've had a lot of good memories under this general manager, and but it's time to move on. It is absolutely time to move on, and I'm excited for the new guard. Jeff Gorton as a president, the track record. I mean, with the New York Rangers, he's brought in Adam Fox via trade. Recently won the Norris. He's looking to be, a Hall of Fame defenseman moving forward, have that type of career in the NHL. He brought in Zibanejad for Brassard via trade. From Ottawa, he signs Artemi Panarin. He's essentially responsible for that rebuild. For the New York Rangers, they announced the rebuild, and then 2-3 years later, they're starting to compete. I think Montreal is in a very similar position where it's not going to take a while for this ship to be straightened out. Maybe next year is up in arms. Maybe you have it's a wild card year. It's going to take some time to tinker and move some pieces around, bring some pieces in, ship some pieces out, but I don't think this is a team that needs a full tear-it-down rebuild. And I will trust a president like Jeff Gorton with his track record. Haven't even mentioned what he did with the Bruins yet, drafting Kessel, drafting Marchand, drafting Lucic, bringing in Mark Savard and Chara via free agency, setting franchises up for long-term success. And I'm excited for that. And then, of course, with him in the president role, you have the potential to hire a rookie GM with new ideas, with fresh perspectives, someone potentially like Martin Madden Jr., who has a strong drafting record with the Anaheim Ducks. Quite honestly, I'm not fully, an expert on Martin Madden, but what I will say is, as a Ducks fan, look at the young players they've brought in the last few years. Troy Terry, Sam Steele, Trevor Zegras, Jamie Drysdale. The list goes on and on. Martin Madden was certainly a part of all that, and these are players that are looking like they will be elite players or impact players in your top 6 or in your top 4 defense moving forward. These are the types of players that the Habs have had trouble drafting, they've had trouble developing. So I'm looking forward to just a refresher. Get Trevor Timmins out of there. Just get the whole old guard out of there. Respect to all them and what they've done and where they've put the Habs moving forward. But it's time this team to turn the corner. And if Martin Madden's the guy for GM, great. Or it could be Matthew Darche. Now, what I will say about Matthew Darche is, he's assistant general manager under Julien Brisebois, who's a new general manager, albeit very experienced, now a cup winner. But Darche is a new GM. I'd almost rather go with the more experienced Martin Madden Jr. But, of course, Darche has the history with the Montreal Canadiens. Being a former player, it could be a wise look, especially with someone like Jeff Gorton, to mentor him moving forward. Now, there's also the potential of, say, Martin Brodeur, but I feel like his heart would definitely be, in New Jersey. But you never know. That could be an off the cuff pick. And speaking of goaltenders, Patrick Waugh. Now, according to Jeff Merrick, Patrick Waugh has not been reached out to by Jeff Molson yet. But you know what? I don't think that matters, because right now Jeff Molson is clearly focused on finding a president, it seems. And if he's hiring a president, then that president would be in charge of getting a general manager. So maybe that process hasn't started yet. You never know. It still could be potential, despite him not being contacted yet. That could be Patrick Waugh. Has Madden Jr. been contacted yet? Has Darche been contacted? We don't know all this stuff, but I'm excited to see how this all plays out. As much as I love the sport of hockey on ice, I absolutely love watching franchises, build successful teams. I like watching executives maneuver. I like seeing general managers and scouts do their jobs and manage the cap and find talent and execute good trades and sign solid contracts. And we've seen Bergevin do a lot of that over the years. He's not perfect. There's areas that he could definitely have done better in, development being a serious one of them. But, this is very exciting. And for a season where the product on ice is not the greatest, it's nice to have something to look forward to, especially thinking that it's not going to be a long process to get this team back to where they should be in the top 3 of the Atlantic Division. So yeah, it's very exciting. Now back to Patrick Waugh though. I don't want to brush over that. I'm not so sure he's going to be up for being just say a coach or being a GM who has Jeff Gorton ahead of him. Maybe he'd be up for that. Maybe, but he seems like a guy, especially considering how his tenure in Colorado went, that he'd want to have, full control or as much control as possible. So I don't know how that'll work out. He's also, you can't brush over the fact that he is a hothead. That could cause some turmoil with the media in Montreal, just too many headlines. Who knows how the players would receive a coach like that, albeit Colorado's players, singing his praises. It's hard to say, but I would be excited to see Patrick Waugh in the organization. I have no qualms about that. It's just, this is a very crucial crossroads for the Montreal Canadiens and Jeff Molson. I think he's going to take it very, very seriously. I think Jeff Molson does have a lot of respect for Bergevin's tenure. I don't think he wants to see it completely stripped down, but at this point, it's hard to argue that significant changes need to be made to correct course here for the Habs. I mean, this is a historically awful season. We haven't seen the likes of this ever for the Habs. So heads need to roll. And at first I was okay with Bergevin staying on, being that guy to get assets at this trade deadline, because I trust Bergevin. I don't think he's going to make panic moves. I really don't. And if that's what they decide to do moving forward, maybe we'll see him finish out his contract. So if that's what they decide to do, I do trust Bergevin not to panic, and I trust his ability to trade and get value. But at the same time, the record is so bad. The product on ice is just, I don't even know what to say at this point. I got tired of repeating myself in reaction videos. That's why I've taken a bit of a step back here. I don't like just being negative and pissed off constantly on my channel, despite sometimes it being necessary. But yeah, changes need to be made, and they're definitely coming. So it may make sense to make that decision now. Remove Marc Bergevin from the equation and have the guys who will be running this team long term start to prepare for the trade deadline, start to prepare for a very crucial draft where they're going to have a chance to draft an elite player high in the draft. So yeah, it's exciting times for Montreal, and hopefully we'll see all this straightened out soon, because apparently Marc Bergevin heard this news through Twitter just like the rest of us. So, you got to feel for the guy, but at the same time, if Jeff Molson is maneuvering in the background to make significant changes and move away from Marc Bergevin, he shouldn't be consulting Bergevin on it, and I don't think it makes sense to, deliver the news to him when it's not fully figured out yet, if that makes sense. And it wasn't Jeff Molson who leaked this information. Journalists did their job. They found out, they had sources, they figured it out, they leaked it. It's not like Jeff Molson was trying to do anything defamatory or against Bergevin here. They've been close for a long time, working hand in hand. Jeff Molson is president. It'll also be good to see him step away from that role, hopefully, and just get an actual hockey executive in. That would be lovely. But yeah, so I think, as much as Marc Bergevin is apparently upset about finding out about this on Twitter, he's got to understand that this, I mean, come on, what do you expect at this point? There's also the future of Dom Ducharme. I've said this before, but if, say, it's Patrick Waugh who comes on as GM, I definitely trust Patrick Waugh's opinion on Dom Ducharme moving forward, because they were rival head coaches for a long time. Halifax and Quebec, they'd be very familiar with each other. But nonetheless, I would expect on a new contract, I don't think you can fully blame this season on coaching. Maybe there's questionable decisions here and there. The assignments that Cole Caulfield gets, Norlinder not getting power play time, Paling staying on the fourth line. It is what it is. At the end of the day, a lot of these players are still young, still new to the NHL. There's an argument to be made that you don't just hand out the minutes, but that's not really what this conversation's about. I think on a new contract, Dom Ducharme is going to be here for this season at least, and maybe a good portion of next. We'll have to wait and see, because like I said, you can't blame all this on coaching. And at some point in the season, when it's truly over, let's be real, it essentially is, I would expect, say, the 10 to 20 game mark, you let the kids play regardless. You stop playing the games and making them earn it, and you just give them the minutes. But until then, make them earn it a little bit. You know what I mean? Anyway, so that's up in the air. There's just so much swirling around the Habs right now. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on everything that's going on right now. What did you think about Scott Mellanby leaving abruptly? He clearly didn't like that his promised position may have, taken away from him or what have you. It's unique, definitely. Very interesting. But it's good to see the ball rolling and Jeff Molson doing some maneuvering. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Who should be president? What you think of Jeff Gorton's resume? I personally think this would be a really, really strong ad for the Montreal Canadiens. And then let me know who you think who the general manager should be. Fill me in on these candidates. I'm not an expert on them. I know generally some good pieces about what they've done around the league, but would love to hear your guys' opinion and maybe some dark horses that could be general manager. Or maybe we get multiple. Maybe it's Madden as GM, Darsh as assistant GM. It's hard to say, but it's crazy times in Montreal, I tell you. Crazy, crazy times. I'll talk to you guys soon. We'll do a full in-depth video on Marc Bergevin's tenure. If this is truly the end, I'll do my best to go over it. I also have big plans for an armchair GM episode, contemplating and trying to theorize how this team needs to rebuild. And I have a special guest joining me for that. One of my most trusted friends in terms of the hockey community and his opinions on this Montreal Canadiens team. He'll join me for that armchair GM episode. And and then of course, if there's official announcements tomorrow at press conference, we'll discuss that. But this is incredible. This is exciting. And again, as much as I support Marc Bergevin and respect what he's done, the Cup final run last year was incredible. It was good to see his emotion. I've also loved a lot of the contracts he's signed the last couple of years, excluding maybe a handful, but even ones like Jeff Petrie. I'm confident Jeff will get his game back. Dvorak starting to find his game. Brendan Gallagher, he's valued league-wide. Arturi Lehkonen still in RFA. Suzuki's contract's looking good, so it's okay to appreciate what Bergevin's done and be okay with him finally moving on. I know a lot of people are getting their wish and they're thrilled right now. But yeah, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Go Habs, go.